When it comes to, like Godzilla, most fans of the King of the Monster, they know about him, but for some fans growing up in the 90s, some viewers were introduced to the character was with the Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin's Godzilla 1998. And, well, some folks, when it comes to this film, aren't big fans of this version of the monster, but some do acknowledge that the film can be a fun B-movie with some practical effects that hold up today, and some CGI. But enough rambling on. Let's look back at the history for this film and why, sadly, America wouldn't take a shot at Godzilla again until many years later. Well, because this film actually has a huge development process, and in this process, I will not be saying, hey, this is my thoughts on the film. Probably not until I give all the details about it. So, the development for this film originally started back in 1983, when filmmaker Steve Miner suggested a Godzilla film called Godzilla, King of the Monsters 3D. The reason for it being 3D was, well, after the director's success with Friday the 13th, Part 3, 3D. On the nose. This version of the film had quite a lot for it, like director Fred Decker of Night of the Creeps was the scriptwriter. Rick Baker had created a bust for the Godzilla. The budget would have been $30 million. Bit of a price tag, ain't it? Then, in 1992, something big happened. Something very big. And that TriStar Pictures, a subsidiary under Sony Studios, bought the rights to make a series of Godzilla films from Toho, the Japanese film company who created him, along with other monsters, and distributed other films such as Ultraman. However, before Roland Emmerich got involved, after he decided to say, hey, Independence Day and all that, in 1994, writers Terry Rossio and Ted Elliott had published a draft for a Godzilla film, which would later be known as Godzilla vs. the Griffin. With this version of Godzilla looking like a dinosaur, the concept art for it is pretty great. The story would have been about Godzilla fighting this, Griffin. Monster, and, seems to have, had the veins of a classic Godzilla film of the Showa or the Heisei series era. Godzilla is the protagonist, the monster is the protagonist, or antagonist. Director Jan DeBont, who directed Speed, would have directed, and Stan Winston had models as ideas. But TriStar said, let me think about that. No. When the budget was said to be $120 million. So in 1996, Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin were given the script that Rossio and Elliott had penned, but were given the chance to write their own, along with creative control and of the process, along with special effects artist Patrick Tatopoulos, and had been asked to make a fast, agile creature. during 1997, the concept for their film was, always like, what if? Like, what if this were to happen? Toho had not given approval of any designs at the time yet. Production of the film took place in May of 1997 in New York City, with a budget of $130 million to make, which I'm going to have to put a pause on this. Which I'm going to have to put a bit of a pause, and that, say, this, that's a bit more from the 1994 version that had been in development, so, yeah, what's the issue? But, yeah. So, eventually, the first trailer for the film, teaser for the film, which appeared before Men in Black, of, Godzilla's foot crashing through a museum, destroying a T-Rex. And honestly, like I say, if that was the first thing we ever saw, the first idea of oh, this is different, was honestly a pretty great way to actually market the film. In November, to keep folks from knowing what Godzilla looked like, sketches or images for him were placed on things like Tiger Electronics, to not give any exact idea of the creature. The full marketing push for the film with things like, his foot is this as big as this bus. But the most known, though, is the Godzilla ad with Taco Bell and its little mascot. Which at the time is great, and the fact that, if you grew up in the 90s, you were probably really big into, Taco Bell and their little marketing pushes that day. So, having my little marketing right there, the Taco Bell.
Godzilla's hiding, and it's up to you to find him. Just buy a medium or larger drink. If you find a Godzilla, use your decoder to reveal what you've won.
Uh-oh. I think I need a bigger box.
Which I made myself, I guess. But then on May 20th, the film was released to theaters. The film had underperformed with $55 million domestically during Memorial Day weekend. It had been expected to gross $90 million. Sequels were canceled, and what would have been one of Godzilla's son, but we got an animated cartoon series. So, that's always awesome to, I think so. What were some of the critics' thoughts of the film? Well, New York's David Deneby praised Godzilla for not being as bad as Starship Troopers or Batman and Robin. But said Godzilla is soggy, murky, and depressing, a joyless and redundant experience that leaves me in a ghastly mood. Los Angeles Times, Kevin Thomas stands apart in really liking the film, calling it an expertly designed theme park ride of a movie that packs non-stop thrills. Japan, how'd they take it? Well, Japan was not as kind. Kenichiro Tsutsuma, one of the 10 actors that had played Godzilla, had actually walked out of the film. That's not good. It's not Godzilla. It doesn't have the spirit he fumes. In G Magazine, the film's title star is diminished as Gyno, or Godzilla in name only. And that's actually how some fans actually perceive the film, the character. In May of 1999, the film was nominated in 7 categories for the Golden Raspberry Award and had won twice for Worst Supporting Actress.
Oh, what have I done, animal? What have I become? Look at me. This isn't me. I don't do stuff like this.
You made a mistake, right? It happens.
Yeah, well, I just totally screwed up with the only man who will ever care about me.
If I told you you can make it all up to him, would you?
Of course I would.
Yeah. Patella and Worst Remake or Sequel. Oh, and he would... the creature eventually would appear in Godzilla Final Wars in 2004, where he ends up getting taken down. What are my thoughts on the film, though? The film does have a sense of, I think it has a sense of fun where the characters are running away from the Raven Godzillas and Madison Square Garden.
Wrong floor.
The puppets are actually pretty great. Yeah, the scenes with them are basically raptors from Jurassic Park. If you've actually done the Sony studio in California, you can actually see them. The acting from the actors is, I'm gonna say, yes, is pretty bad. Especially from the, the actress who plays Adria. But I do like the Ebert and Roper mayor and his assistant. The idea of having Godzilla as a, what if Godzilla, a Godzilla, I feel like it would have been cool if they had actually done this, had made this version of Godzilla have radioactive lizard, be a radioactive lizard. Would have been cool. If he had actually had his atomic breath. Because, yes, at the beginning of the film, bombs are dropped on testing grounds for where lizards are, iguanas. So you can't tell me that, that would have caused something like, a braving or something going on there. But, what are your thoughts on Godzilla 98? Do you like it? Do you not? Are your thoughts on it just that it's there? I'll see you next time.